I think the reason relearning your heritage language as an Asian American can seem like such a big undertaking to take upon in your life is because I think the majority of people only consider relearning how to speak in the heritage language. Okay, and yes, that's gonna make sense, of course, because that's the first thing you learn in any language, right? Like from your parents when you're just born. But speaking, it can be kind of like a mixed bag in terms of difficulty for a lot of people. Because for someone like me, I'm super reserved and introverted. So speaking, yes, obviously I know how to communicate and like talk to people, but in terms of outgoingness and socialness, it's not the most intuitive thing for me, to be honest. Okay, so even though my first foundation in Vietnamese was like how to speak, like with family, like your friends with family and whatnot, it was still kind of a weak point, I would say. You know, like I didn't have much like strong vocabulary back then. There were so many gaps in what I knew, and I would just always get frozen like right on the spot. And we have a slang for that in modern Vietnamese, "sit keo." Okay, so that means like when like you don't know how to like you don't know what to say, so you're just like frozen solid. As I started relearning the language when I got older, I started to realize like, okay, well, why don't I just focus on the other skills of reading, writing, and listening? And I feel like it generally seems like a big undertaking to a lot of people at first, like an even bigger undertaking. That's why it just seems so intimidating. My point is, I think for a lot of people, if they can't get past that fear of speaking in the heritage language, then how the heck are they gonna do something like reading or writing or listening in the language? But to that, I say that for someone like me who struggled a little bit with speaking, I had to turn to those three because they were sort of a safer and more controlled way for me to learn the language. Maybe it was a bigger time commitment, yes, and maybe somewhat less practical, but it still allowed me to mess up more, check resources when I had to, and just kind of get a better personal assessment of where I was in terms of tracking my progress with the language. Because when you speak, there's going to be a lot of opinions from other people too. Keep that in mind, right? Maybe some family members might say that you're terrible at the language, or some native speakers won't want to speak your heritage language with you at all. I've experienced that multiple times with a lot of native speakers of Vietnamese. Even from those like around the same age as me, they don't want to speak any Vietnamese with me. So that's why I realized, okay, then if I want to control this, then I would have to read, write, and listen in the language as much as I can. So then that if I have 3/4 of the language, that's still more than like just having 1/4, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. My speaking is so-so. Like, I still have a very strong like Vietnamese American accent when I speak. Sometimes I mess up pronunciations, but I now am at a point where I can understand virtually almost any kind of Vietnamese media. At a pretty advanced level, I can read decently smoothly in the language, and I have a better vocabulary than most heritage learners of Vietnamese. So just find your strengths and then focus on them.